So the impact of the Treaty of Versailles. Again, the whole idea was never to let Germany threaten Europe again. We know how that usually works out. But essentially, the reality was it's going to cause huge economic problems that are not going to only affect Europe, they're also going to affect the United States. Also, we've got a great deal of resentment over in Japan, and of course, we know Japan's role in World War II. Many colonies and spheres of influence are going to crop up, and it's going to create the conditions that are going to give rise to Hitler and other fascist dictators like Mussolini and Franco to take over in other territories. So, lots of impacts of the treaty. Again, refer back to your crash course and the reading in order to see everything that you need to concentrate on for the test. Sidebar, as far as the Russian Revolution, at this point, many of these terms should be familiar to you. Maybe not so much the Mensheviks, but we are going to do an activity with this in class where you're going to write these words. You're essentially going to write a paragraph using these words explaining the whole Russian Revolution. Other battles to note, again, this is kind of something I added after I printed off your fill in the blanks. The Battle of Gallipoli and the Battle of Verdun. This is why in our bar room brawl situation we did in class, and what would happen if World War One was a big bar fight. This is how the Australians get into the war. And also notice you've got a famous name here, Winston Churchill, the Battle of Gallipoli. Also the Battle of Verdun, major loss of life. Alrighty, so moving on to the interwar years. We have new boundaries, whether it be for the Ottoman Empire, Russia, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and we've talked about the Ottoman Empire being the sick man of Europe, um, lost most of its remaining land, and yes, I realize there should be no apostrophe there. Again, haven't checked some of these for grammar in quite a while. Lost most of its remaining land in the Treaty of Versailles. You get into Ataturk, take a look at him. Change the cultural path from Islamic more to Western. And again, just going to take a look at this one. Maybe Google the Armenian Massacre. Reminder of what happened, what the map looked like before World War One. And we've also got, eventually, we're going to have Soviet Union is going to go totalitarian because of the Russian Revolution. Hopefully, you remember this from the timeline worksheet that you did over spring break. Joseph Stalin is going to be the successor to Lenin. And he was not there with the original Bolsheviks whenever they take over the interim government. He is a part of the Soviets, the Bolsheviks, but again, not really a main figure. And his style of governing is more totalitarianism than it is communism. And we will be watching a video specifically on Stalin. With Joseph Stalin, you want to pay particular attention to his use of terror labor camps, but essentially the 5-year plan is what's going to be the major idea there, because in 1928 he's going to implement his first 5-year plan. It's comprehensive, centrally controlled plan for industrial expansion. And all of this is, of course, to try and bring, keep the economy going and to industrialize. He's going to follow Trotsky's plan to extract necessary money by squeezing the peasants through collectivization or collectivizing the agricultural, and so he's going to, or the agriculture. So he's going to make all those farms that Lenin had given back, that Trotsky, that all of them had fought for during the revolution and got back. He's going to essentially collectivize them and make them again part of the government. The state is going to wage an open war on the kulaks, which is the wealthy peasants, and he's going to send folks to the countryside with the order to kill any peasant who refused to join a collective farm. So again, this collectivization is really the communism part, if you will. Uh, and he does successfully industrialize and improve the economy for a little while in the Soviet Union. Uh, because of this, by the 1930s, the Soviet Union is emerging as a major industrial power, while Western nations are basically economically depressed. That's the United States. Um, Decade of depression. So, in a sense, it did have some positives. It also, of course, had some negatives. So, we'll be taking a look at that in the video, and those are the things you want to pay attention to with Stalin. Also, take a look here and just make sure you have the new boundaries that are formed. These are straight out of the crash course here, folks, and have big stars. Over in Western Europe, you've got socialists in France trying to get power from the conservatives. High unemployment over in Great Britain, so the Labour Party is going to become particularly powerful. And again, Ireland and India are going to demand their independence, which should not be a shocker. Italy doesn't get any gains necessarily at Versailles. If you notice, they were kind of on both sides there. Um, but they are going to have a pretty much again the ailing economy syndrome like the rest of Europe, and it's going to lead to the rise of fascism with Mussolini, which we will also be watching a video on. Essentially, you got our big three. Well, technically, the big three would be Mussolini, um, Franco over in Spain, and Stalin. But we're also going to throw Hitler in there as well and take a look at him. He'll have his own video. Franco won't, but you've got your big fascists, and we'll be taking a look at those guys and seeing their rise to power with some very specific videos that do a very good job of kind of helping you understand how these men were influenced by the time. Again, in Spain and Portugal, specifically in Spain, the republics are going to be overthrown in favor of dictators, and that's where Franco comes into play. And the reason why I keep mentioning Franco is because we're going to see an interaction between Franco and Hitler that's going to lead to the painting Guernica that's been on my wall all year, and that, if I remember correctly, you guys have heard about from Senora Cabrera and Senora Nolan at this point. In Germany, again, when Max von Baden, the Prince of Germany, sues for peace, he realizes he's about ready to be overthrown and that basically the Kaisership of Germany is over with. And so they do become a republic, and the Weimar Republic is going to be one of the famous ones, especially when we get into World War II, because they had the problem and they faced the challenge of trying to deal with their economy and their country post-war under Treaty of Versailles specifications, which would have been impossible for anyone. But they have the lovely distinction, if you will, of trying to deal with that. And so the Weimar Republic is not going to be very popular. A lot of folks are going to be, I think it was up to 50% unemployment going on in Germany at this time. And a lot of folks that had seen the romantic nature, and again, romantic in air quotes, that had lived through World War I are now having to deal with the Weimar Republic and the shame that Germany is living under with the war reparations and being told you're all at fault here. Again, even if you remember, Germany wasn't the one that threw the first punch or even was the first one hit in World War I. And it's going to result in the rise of German fascism, which fascism is extreme nationalism, and extreme fascism is going to be Nazism. The Great Depression is also going to be occurring in between these these two world wars, and now we're getting more into the American side. Most of the countries, and specifically France and Germany, are going to rely on American credit. They were the only ones that had a stable economy during World War I and at the end of World War I because they had taken so long to get into the war, and so they're going to be the major creditors. And unfortunately, because of the 1929 stock market crash, we're going to have um, we're going to have an international catastrophe because Americans are going to stop issuing credit. Germany now has no way to pay their reparations, and of the two countries, Germany and the United States, are going to be hit the hardest, with most of their workforce. Quite a chunk of their workforce is going to be out of work and no way to pay back all of those war reparations. Now the rest of these slides, I'm going to let you guys let you go through them. We get into again the pioneering versus militant phase of women's suffrage movement, some of the socialist movement. So again, take a moment to pause and just look at those for just a moment, especially since we're dealing with the socialist movements. Also, you want to take just a second to get very familiar with this slide. And again, that is fascism because it's not going away. We're going to deal a lot with fascism, especially as we watch the videos on Stalin and Hitler and Mussolini. Um, and that, well, again, not so much Stalin, he's more totalitarian. Uh, but fascism and this intense nationalism is going to be big. If you notice up in Italy, we'll take a look at the Mussolini video, but his black shirts. Again, this is a direct nod to the red shirts of Garibaldi and the Italian unification. Over in Germany, lots of propaganda from Adolf Hitler and the National Socialist German Party. We'll take a look at the propaganda there and how he comes to be a major power in Germany. It's also pretty much a good time to mention that, and it says so here in the slide, that because um, of his involvement with World War One, a lot of those folks weren't told, the Germans, and this happens in World War One and it happens in World War Two. They weren't told that they were losing the war. They literally, because of the propaganda that the governments were putting out, World War One and Hitler in World War Two and Interwar Years Hitler, the propaganda that they're putting out, these people, the people of Germany, really thought they were winning, and when they're all of a sudden on the losing side, it is a shock. They were, kept in the dark about a lot of things, and Hitler's going to be very good at convincing the people that through propaganda that they had been betrayed in World War One, and it probably wouldn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination for you to guess who Hitler's going to blame for the betrayal in World War One. If you guess the Jewish community, then hey, you're right. Beer Hall Putsch. If I haven't given you extra credit on that one, um, then shame on me at that point. Usually I give this one as extra credit. What is the Beer Hall Putsch? What is a putsch, first of all? But again, it's a failed attempt by Hitler to stage a coup, but he does get a chance to stand in front of a courtroom full of people, and he is an excellent orator. He's an excellent speech giver. And this is where, usually in class, I dare to take a moment to stop and say, they're just those charismatic people who speak, and when they speak, you just listen and you fall into whatever it is that they're saying. Martin Luther King is one of these, Hitler is one of these, JFK is one of these. And if you think of all the different folks through time who've just been fantastic at giving speeches, you do have to give some props to Hitler, especially considering what he was saying was usually anti-Semitic. It was usually about a proper race that he wanted to build, and we'll see more of that in the Hitler video. So by 1923, Hitler's going to become a chancellor, and that's because he's giving people their their pride back. They don't have to hang their heads in shame because of, like the Weimar Republic agreeing to the Treaty of Versailles made them do. And in Spain, again, like we said, Francisco Franco, with the help of Hitler and Mussolini, and I know you can't see this in the slide, it says defeat the Spanish Republic by 1939. So Francisco Franco is going to be set up down in Spain. It is worth a note that there were fascist organizations in Great Britain and France, but they were on the fringes. They never got any real support. And please take a look at the last few slides in this unit. We will be dealing more with them and the movements in philosophy during Art Week.